Fistic Disorder. It's Monday morning and everywhere is busy. People are jam-packed on the streets and cars are stuck in very bad traffic. But suddenly, you feel someone rubbing themselves on you, and while you don't think anything at first, the encounter gets extremely uncomfortable because you can feel the person doing it over and over again. Sadly, you've just experienced an act from someone with Fistic Disorder. A person who has this disorder would derive intense sexual pleasure from rubbing up against strangers, typically in crowded places. Think packed elevators, busy subways, or even concerts. And yes, it's as uncomfortable and inappropriate as it sounds. You could say these folks really know how to press people's buttons. Now, don't confuse this with just being a touchy-feely person or someone who enjoys a good group hug. Fistic Disorder takes things to a new level of getting up close and personal. It's a repeated, disgusting behavior, like that persistent fly that won't leave you alone at a picnic. Fistic Disorder is more common in men, and some research has shown that up to 30% of men may have engaged in Fistic behavior at some point in their lives. They might think they're smooth operators, but in reality, they're just rubbing everyone the wrong way. Conversion disorder. Normally, when most people break up with their significant partner or lover, they usually let loose in different ways. Some go to drink and party away the heartbreak, while others would probably hole up in a room eating a tube of chocolate ice cream and crying themselves to sleep listening to a Billie Eilish album. Then there's you, who would literally get paralyzed and even go blind because of the emotional pain. That's right, instead of crying yourself to sleep, your body literally decides to convert all the psychological stress and pain you feel into physical symptoms. It can manifest in different forms, so aside from paralysis and blindness, you might also go mute, start speaking in tongues, or experience epileptic seizures. However, once you start feeling better about your emotional state, your symptoms may disappear after several days. The craziest part is that these symptoms are 100% real to the person experiencing them. It's not malingering or faking, it's more like your brain accidentally pressed the physical symptom button instead of the deal with emotions in a healthy way button. This disorder can occur after a person experiences extreme psychological stress or trauma, and individuals with a history of mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, or a history of physical or sexual abuse may be more susceptible to developing the disorder. Kleptomania. After months of looking for a roommate, you finally find the perfect match. However, after just 1 week of living together, you notice that more than half of your belongings are missing. The worst part is that even the things that have no business getting stolen, like your toothbrush and underwear, are nowhere to be found. One day while cleaning, you see a bag under your roommate's bed. Out of curiosity, you take a peep inside and surprise, surprise, there lies all your missing toothbrushes, underwear, and even the teddy bear you got as a Christmas gift. Now, your roommate has absolutely no use for these items she steals because she has a really great job. The truth is, she's a kleptomaniac, which is a severe mental condition when a person has an irresistible urge to steal things, not because they need them or can't afford them, but because the act of stealing itself is thrilling. People with this disorder treat "thou shalt not steal" as more of a suggestion than a commandment. These folks aren't just shoplifters, they're involuntary collectors of other people's stuff. The urge to steal in kleptomania is more persistent than that catchy tune you can't get out of your head. It's like their brain is constantly playing the Mission Impossible theme song, egging them on to swipe that stapler from work. Now, once they've successfully stolen something, they experience relief, gratification, or pleasure. It's the thief's version of a victory dance. But after the brief satisfaction, they often feel guilty, ashamed, or remorseful. The stolen item might even be discarded, hidden, or returned because it was never about owning it. Voyeuristic disorder. So you moved into a new apartment and called the maintenance crew to come fix some lights when they discovered tiny cameras all tucked away in areas of your new apartment. This freaks you out a little, but you just get rid of them. Now, as you're undressing to go shower the next day, you spot your neighbor across looking directly at your window with binoculars. The thing is, your neighbor is probably a voyeur. Now, the peeping Tom has a condition called voyeuristic disorder, which means he derives intense sexual pleasure from secretly observing unsuspecting people who are naked, undressing, or engaging in sexual activity. Before you think this is just harmless fun, remember that it's called a disorder for a reason. It can seriously impact the voyeur's personal life relationships and even lead to legal troubles, because you are literally sneaking around and watching people be intimate without consent. The reason why someone develops this disorder can be very tricky, but some theories suggest it could be linked to early sexual experiences, a need for power or control, or even a thrill-seeking personality. Somatic symptom disorder. Somatic symptom disorder would basically transform your brain into a very annoying drama queen that blows even the slightest discomfort out of proportion. If you have this disorder and mistakenly hit your toe against something, instead of feeling a moderate amount of pain, you would literally feel as if someone threw flesh-eating acid on your toe. Your body is basically like a toddler who's learned to fake cry for attention. Every morning you wake up, there is a new pain and ache out of the blue. The pain would be so intense that it'll feel like you were in a bar fight the night before. The worst part is, there would be no underlying medical condition to even show that you feel pain, and so your symptoms cannot even be fully explained. It's like your body is playing an endless game of guess what's wrong with me, and nobody has the answer key. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You aren't faking your symptoms. This isn't some Oscar-worthy performance where the actor just pretends to feel pain. The symptoms and pain are as serious as a heart attack to the person experiencing them. This would often lead to significant distress, anxiety, and depression that can seriously disrupt their daily lives. Factitious disorder. So, imagine a world where you can gain attention and sympathy by pretending to be sick. It sounds like the dream of every kid who has ever faked a stomachache to avoid school, right? Well, unfortunately, it is the reality of someone with a factitious disorder. You would deliberately fake, exaggerate, or even induce illness in yourself or others. It's like being the star of your own medical drama, but without the fancy hospital sets and scripted happy endings. People with this disorder would go to great lengths to convince others that they are genuinely sick, often to receive attention, care, and sympathy. The worst part is that they might even purposely cause harm or induce illness in another person, usually their child, just for pity or sometimes for control. This disorder is mainly seen in people who were neglected or abused, so creating or exaggerating illness symptoms might be a way to seek the care and attention they lacked during their formative years. Oppositional defiant disorder. Imagine a kid whose default setting is disagree, even if you tell them the sky is blue or the water is wet. They would argue, fight, and disagree with you on every single matter, no matter if they are wrong. You ask them to clean their room, they declare it a sovereign state and slam the door in your face. You suggest they do their homework, and suddenly they're staging a mini rebellion worthy of a history book. They have basically turned no and rebellion into an art form. Well, the thing is, you have just met someone with oppositional defiant disorder. It is a childhood behavioral disorder characterized by frequent temper tantrums, excessive arguing with adults, and deliberate attempts to annoy others. It's like having a tiny lawyer who is always ready to argue their case no matter how trivial the issue. If you say up, they'll say down faster than you can say, "Why are you like this?" People with this disorder could argue with a brick wall and feel like they've won. And if it ever looks like you've outsmarted them, they are ready to go all out to get revenge on you. And you already know that kids can be really, really mean devils. Fortunately, therapy helps manage anger and improve social skills. Plus, most kids with ODD eventually grow out of it. Let's just say their inner rebel finally gets tired and decides to retire. Intermittent explosive disorder. So, you're walking through a serene, quiet park with birds chirping in the trees, a gentle breeze blowing, and everywhere looks so calm. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a tornado hits the parks and starts uprooting trees, throwing the grass and birds around, and totally disrupting the peace and quiet. Now, this is literally what having intermittent explosive disorder, IED, can be like. You could literally be having the quietest, stress-free day, and the minute there is a little problem, you will explode in sudden, uncontrollable bursts of anger. It's like living with a volcano inside you that could erupt at any moment, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. People with IEDs are like human firecrackers. You never know when they're going to go off, but when they do, boy oh boy, it's spectacular. It's as if their emotional volume knob is stuck between quiet seething and nuclear meltdown with no stops in between. Think of it as a fuse that's way too short but is ready to ignite over the slightest spark. We're talking full-on Hulk mode over things like being cut off in traffic or getting the wrong order at a drive-thru. It's like they're auditioning for a WWE career, but the only opponent is their own self-control. If you are dealing with IED, it's important to identify triggers and learn de-escalation techniques. Think of it as becoming your own bomb squad, always ready to defuse the situation before it goes kaboom. Circadian rhythm sleep-wake disorders. So, let's say your body is like an internal timekeeper that keeps time pretty well. But instead of telling you when you have tea or ask for the check, your circadian rhythm tells you when to sleep, eat, and maybe even when to crave that midnight snack. However, for some people, this clock is about as reliable as a $2 watch you bought from a guy in a trench coat, because they have the circadian rhythm sleep-wake disorder. This disorder would basically cause a lot of disruptions in your daily activities. You end up going to bed and waking up way later than the rest of the world. Basically, you're the night owl who's trying to live in a morning lark's world. You might be hitting the sack at 3 a.m. and waking up at noon, which sounds great until you realize the world operates from 9 to 5. However, some people are on the flip side of this disorder. Instead of going to sleep really late, they're already ready for bed when most people are still digesting dinner and would be up as early as the rooster. The thing is, your internal clock may get a bit confused and develop this disorder, especially if you have a habit of traveling across time zones, pulling all-nighters, or continuously binge-watching Netflix until late in the night. Exhibitionist disorder. Picture this. You're walking home one evening and suddenly see this 62-year-old man pulling his trousers down and flashing his goods out in public in the height of excitement, like a toddler who just discovered how to pull down their diaper, but much less cute and a lot more problematic. The man you just saw has exhibitionist disorder, which is someone who has a persistent urge to expose their genitals to unsuspecting strangers. We're not talking about a wardrobe malfunction or a one-time streak at a football game. This is a recurring behavior, and the person doing it usually gets a thrill from the shock, embarrassment, or surprise of the face of their audience. The disorder usually kicks in during adolescence, which is prime time for all sorts of awkward moments. But instead of just getting a bad haircut or writing bad poetry, someone with this disorder might start getting their kicks from showing off in public. It's like the world's worst coping mechanism. Think of it as trying to fix a flat tire with a banana peel. It's not exactly effective and definitely illegal and inappropriate. Anorexia disorder. You walk into a funhouse of mirrors at a carnival, and every reflection shows off your perfect curves and shape. However, for someone with anorexia, every reflection shows them something distorted. No matter how thin they get, they still see themselves as overweight. This disorder is like having a full-time job as a body critic, only there's no paycheck, just a lot of self-doubt and hunger pangs. If you have anorexia, you would be obsessed with being thin, so much so that you would restrict your food intake to the point of starvation. Food is your sworn enemy, and your mind has convinced you that thinner is better no matter the cost. Now, this often begins during the teenage years or young adulthood. It's as if puberty wasn't awkward enough, so some people decided to spice things up by developing a life-threatening condition. This particular disorder can get really scary because anorexia isn't just about being thin. It can lead to severe health problems, including heart issues, bone loss, and even death. Your body starts eating itself itself, quite literally, as it runs out of fuel. It's like driving a car with no gas, but instead of stopping, the car just keeps going until the engine gives out. Fetishistic disorder. So, it's the first anniversary of your relationship and your girlfriend decides to surprise you with a fancy dinner. On the other hand, you have a very weird gift of your own. You bought her a new pair of socks. But these aren't just any socks. They are fuzzy, neon green, and covered in little rubber ducks. Your girlfriend is super pissed because these same socks are literally the 5th pair you've gotten her since you both started dating. But what she doesn't realize is that you have something called a fetish disorder. Now, for most people, these socks are, at best, a quirky fashion statement. But for you, they are the epitome of attraction. As soon as your girlfriend slips them on, you are in heaven. You do not find her sexually attractive at all if she does not wear that particular sock. It's like your brain has gone head over heels for the most absurd thing. In fetishistic disorders, your brain wires itself in such a way that these objects or non-genital body parts become the primary source of sexual gratification. Think of objects like balloons, heels, feet, hands, toes, or even elbows. Yes, elbows. While it's not a bad thing to have a little love for unconventional objects, fetishistic disorder is a constant, can't get it out of my mind type of obsession that can become a very dangerous habit and cause significant distress. Imagine being so focused on the idea of someone's toes that you simply can't do anything else. This can severely affect relationships or daily functions. See, you probably know that feeling all too well also. The memory of when my dad died is still all too fresh. Now, even though I wasn't obsessed with someone's toes, I was so overcome and focused on the pain and grief of losing someone that it practically started to affect everything. Even hanging out with my friends or doing my work in school or even trying to relax, I would just burst into uncontrollable tears. It got so bad that there were days when I couldn't stand up from bed, and it severely started to impact my mental health and relationships. I was even completely neglecting my self-care routines. Looking back, I see I could have really benefited from therapy. Having a third party to work through my feelings and loss would have really improved how I processed the grief and improved my quality of life. The good news is you don't have to go through all this on your own anymore because we have the perfect third party to help you work through any problems you might be facing. You see, our sponsor for today, BetterHelp, is the world's largest therapy service, and it is 100% online. You do not need to leave the safety and comfort of your home for any reason. This platform has the world's largest network of experienced and professional therapists who can help you with a range of different issues, including depression, anxiety, grief, and more. BetterHelp has been able to help over 4 million people get help and face their trauma, and you can be one of these people. You can talk to your therapists however you feel most comfortable, either through messaging, phone calls, or video calls. And the best part is that you can message your therapist. Get started with your healing journey today by simply clicking the link in the description, betterhelp.com/evaluator, to become a part of all BetterHelp has to offer.